Yeah, maybe I can just introduce everyone and get us started. So, hi everyone, thanks for coming out to this projects workshop. And we're really grateful to have Jason and Charlotte from Anovo to lead this workshop today. And they'll be talking about basically like design and if you guys have any questions about like how to design your portfolio and anything else related to that, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer. So yeah, thank you all for coming out. And I'll just pass it right on to Jason and Charlotte.
Awesome. Thanks, Grace.
Whoa, thank you. We can give quick intros too. So my name is Charlotte. I'm a product designer at Duolingo. Um, Last year or maybe the year before, that's where I met Shubham, and I was leading the SFU Emerge workshops for design, and it was a lot of fun. And since then, I've been in touch with the SFU Emerge people and just like doing a few workshops here and there. Jason and I, we run a design studio. Oh, hey, Josh, nice to see your face. um, Me and Jason, we run a design studio called Novo. And yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Awesome. So change my background here to match yours.
Yay.
Yeah, so my name's Jason. Right now I'm doing freelance designing, mostly focusing on the studio with Charlotte. My background is actually in science. I didn't come from a design background. I discovered it about 2 years ago and I fell in love with it. And I've basically been trying to transition since. I still work as a registered nurse, but I'll be starting at Shopify in the summer. So super excited to make that transition.
Sweet.
Cool. And we just want to get to know you guys a little bit more. So maybe tell us like your name, what you're studying, and like how far along you are in your design journey. Grace, do you want to start first?
Yeah, sure, I can start off. So I'm currently a third year computer science student at SFU. And regarding design, I've taken like one user interface design course at SFU. And right now I'm just kind of dabbling in UX UI sometimes. Like for example, my group project, I'm covering more of the design part. So like working in Figma a little bit. But yeah, still learning for sure. And I guess I can just call on the next person if that works. I'll call on Josh.
Hi, I'm Josh. I'm a fourth year in computer science. And for my design journey, I'm taking a class about design actually, which is like, it's a computing class, but it's a class about user interface design. And I'm not very good at it, but I'm trying my best. I'll call on Shabam.
So I'm Shubham. I'm a third year computer science student, and my first introduction to design was actually at Charlotte's workshop 1 year ago. So that really kind of set me on the journey to like learn to want to learn more about design. So I really thank Charlotte for having hosted such an awesome workshop back then. So since then, I kind of took more courses online to learn a little bit more about it, and I got an internship in the summer of last year where I worked as a UI designer for a company here in Vancouver. And I did that for around 8 months, and I still do it a little bit now and then, but I kind of got a little bit more into depth now. But still, using elements of design that I learned in the periods preceding that. So yeah, I call upon Pranir.
Hey, I'm a third year computing science student. I took one design course at SFU. It's the same one I think Grace took. One of my favorite courses that I've ever taken. I still dabble around with UX UI, like with Figma and all of that. I do a lot more dev stuff, but I feel like design is gonna take over the devs soon. Especially with how Figma is developing and all the other elements. I have a little experience with InDesign as well. I do a little bit of design in my co-op. That's my design experience. Who's next? Jocelyn.
Hi, I'm a third year computer science student at SFU as well. I don't have that much experience with design, but I've always been interested in like the UI and UX, mainly because I like the interface. Or I like a good interface in games or like in applications because I am interested in game dev. So yeah, I call on Michelle.
Hello, I'm Michelle. I'm a fifth year IELTS student. Um, so yes, I am a design student, and I work as a product designer and web developer at Gusto, which is like a Vancouver startup company. And yes, I hope that design will be my future career. I pick Marcus.
Hello, my name is Marcus, and I'm a first year software systems student. I don't really have any design experience, so I'm hoping to learn like some more about designing. I'll pick Nathan.
Hi, I'm Nathan. I'm a first year IAT student. So like Michelle, I'm hoping to make like design my future for my career. So my design experience is I've done like a lot of just like intro courses. Like I'm just trying to get my fundamentals right now. Yeah, I'll pass it off to Lakshay.
Okay, so I'm a third year computer science student. My design experience would be taking the design course. And the reason I'm interested in design is that I've often seen in my co-op and my other works also, if the work doesn't look beautiful, the interest decreases a lot. So I want to make my work more beautiful.
Great. Nice to meet you all. Is that everyone? We didn't miss anyone, right? Okay, cool. It sounds like you guys are all pretty early in your design journeys, having to take like one class or just kind of learning on your own. And there's Michelle, who's like a fifth year, and you probably know a lot about design already. So the purpose of this workshop is geared towards the ones that are just starting to create their first portfolio. And then we're going to talk about like portfolio best practices, as well as some different platforms we can host your portfolio on. And we're hoping to do like a portfolio roast later and just like going through someone else's portfolio to see like what they're doing well, what they're not doing well. Michelle, do you have a portfolio up?
Yes.
Oh, is it okay if we go over your portfolio later?
Sure. It's very
Okay.
old, but okay.
That's all right. Does anyone else have a portfolio up that we could
Yeah,
roast?
I do.
You do?
I
Okay,
do.
awesome. Perfect. Okay, we'll do that at the end. And Jason, you can take it away.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Charlotte. So we just have a quick presentation on a few things for the basics of making your portfolio, what to do, what not to do, where to find inspiration. So I'll share my screen here. And can you guys all see my screen?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So yeah, today's workshop is going to be focused on kickstarting your portfolio. We're going to talk about how to create a portfolio from scratch, what things you should and shouldn't do, the different platforms available for hosting, and then just some great resources to get inspiration on getting the design started. And I'll also walk through a project on my own portfolio to show you guys how I like to lay out my case studies. And if you have any questions that come up, please feel free to pop them in the chat or interrupt me. That's totally cool. And we'll try to answer them throughout this workshop. So we're going to talk about things to consider when first creating a portfolio. The first thing is, what are you trying to showcase? Do you want to showcase your visual design skills, your UX research ability, or a mixture? Ideally, as product designers, we really want to be able to showcase both in our portfolio. The second thing is who you expect your target audience to be. So if you're job hunting, this will most likely be recruiters for the companies that you're applying for. In this case, you want to make your case studies very concise and to the point, since they probably won't be spending more than 2 to 5 minutes on your portfolio. That's why it's good to limit the number of projects to just 3 to 5. Any more than that, I can guarantee that these projects will probably not get looked at. In fact, recruiters will probably only look at the first 1 or 2 projects on your portfolio. So you always want to make sure that the strongest case studies are at the top. The third thing is, how do you want to communicate your personal brand and identity? Do you want to show that you're organized and minimalistic, or someone who's exciting and not afraid to think outside the box? The design and layout of your portfolio should reflect that. So here's an example of a super clean and minimalistic portfolio. I really like this one. Lots of white space, just text and images to really put the focus on the case studies. And here's an example of a portfolio that's a little more out there. Both are beautiful in its own way, but the important thing is whatever direction you decide to go in is to keep it consistent. So if you're going for the minimalistic design, make sure all the pages on your website follow the same theme. So let's take a look at the do's and don'ts of creating an online portfolio. So first do is introduce yourself to give the reader more context on who you are. You can add an about me page to give a more detailed background on yourself, but on the homepage, it's good to limit it to just 1 or 2 main points. These can include your background, your experience, the things you're passionate about. Try to avoid overused phrases like crafting meaningful experiences or solving complex problems, because they're pretty cliche and recruiters have probably seen them all. Your work should be tailored for the jobs you're applying for. So for example, if you're applying for a company where the focus is on mobile apps, you want to make sure you have examples of mobile designs at the forefront of your portfolio. If a recruiter for that company looks at your portfolio and all they see are website redesigns and illustrations, they're probably going to pass over your application. And your case study should tell a story from start to finish. So the reader should be able to easily follow your design journey from the initial ideation phase to the final high fidelity mockups. If you created any user personas, it would be good to use that persona throughout your case study. For example, if you have a persona named Sam, you can say, let's follow Sam as he goes through the process of ordering food with our app, and then walk the reader through Sam's user journey. As much as possible, try and tell your story with images and illustrations, using text when needed to give context to your visuals. And last is just to keep it simple and concise. Include just enough text and visuals to provide a clear context on what you're solving for and allow the reader to understand your design decisions. Now let's take a look at a few things you shouldn't do. So first, don't let the design of your portfolio become a distraction and reduce the usability of your site. There's a lot of really cool website templates out there with all kinds of neat animations and interactions. It's really tempting to use those, but just be careful because adding too many interactive elements can actually detract from what you're trying to showcase. It's better to keep things simple and really let your projects be your main focus point. Next is don't neglect mobile viewers. So it's true, while the majority of people that will be looking at your portfolio will be on a desktop, on the off chance someone visits your portfolio on a tablet or phone and the site's completely broken, it's going to reflect poorly on your abilities as a designer. So take that extra step to ensure that your portfolio will look presentable no matter what screen it's being displayed on. Also, don't include subpar work to seem more experienced. It may be tempting to pad up your portfolio with projects to make it seem like you have a lot of experience, but it's going to end up working against you. Remember that your perceived ability is the average of your case studies, and all the mediocre ones would just drag you down. So if someone sees really strong case studies followed by some not so great ones, they're going to think that your skills might be inconsistent. So again, yeah, just show the strongest ones that you're most proud of. So how do we actually write a case study? Well, there's really no one correct way to do it. And all of there's some important things that every good case study should have. At the end of the day, your project should tell a cohesive story that seamlessly links the challenge, the strategy, and the results. And I'll go over the way that I like to lay out my case studies. So the first thing you want to do is clearly define the problem that you're trying to solve in one sentence. This problem statement essentially sets the stage for your entire case study. Next, we want to have some supporting background information on the problem at hand to give context to the reader. So why does this problem exist? How do we know it's an issue? And what are the implications? Then comes the research process. So this can be in the form of user interviews, surveys, competitive analysis, and usability testing, among others. The goal of your research is to identify your main points that you would try to address with your designs. In the planning phase, you'll highlight some of the areas of opportunity based on the pain points discovered in the research phase. I also like to make a rough sketch of the product structure at this point, map out the user flow, and outline the project objectives. For the design process, you want to show iterations of your work, from the early sketching and wireframing to the medium and high fidelity mockups. So show your different explorations if possible, and give context to your design decisions, like why did you decide to go with a particular exploration over another? And did you test out your designs with users to validate them? I like to place the final high fidelity mockups in its own section, as this is where you really get to show off your visual design skills. Choose the most notable features of your app and showcase how they work using individual screens or a flow diagram or an animated prototype. Stay away from linking interactive prototypes to Figma though, as it's pretty unlikely the reader will actually click through them. Now you want to talk about the metrics and the results. So how did you validate and measure the success of your app? If the app went live, what sort of results did you see? It's best to use phrases with quantifiable metrics like, we increased user retention by 23%, or this led to a 6% increase in sales, to really show the impact of your work. At the end, you have a chance to reflect on your project. So what were some of the challenges you faced? What would you do differently if you had more time? What are some of the next steps? And this section is important because it shows a reader how you've learned from any mistakes made and improve your design ability throughout the process. So I'm going to walk through one of my case studies. Here's my portfolio. It's pretty plain. I like to keep it simple. And I have all my projects down here. I'm going to walk through one called CareDirect. So this was one I made. It's more of a passion project. I made it while I was working as a registered nurse at the hospital. And it's a tool that makes it easier for nurses to find supplies to do procedures with their patients. So here I have a really big header, the title, a quick description, and just some visuals to capture the user's interest. Down here is some more details. So the project type, the tools I used, the duration, and then what role you played. So next is a problem statement in one sentence. Poorly organized supply rooms make it difficult for nurses to find the supplies they need. And underneath the problem, I've given some background to the problem. I've added some pictures here to make it easier for the user to visualize what the problem is. And then down here, I've added my design question, which is, how can we make it easier for nurses to find the supplies they need for timely patient care? Now, the next section down here is kind of a personal preference, but I like to include just a quick overview of the project and what I came up with, and a few screens. Because I think when recruiters are looking at your portfolio, they really like to look at visuals. So you give them kind of like a sneak peek of what to expect at the end. You don't have to do this. You can always just skip directly into the research phase, but I find that it's nice to just kind of give them a quick preview. So here's just a mock-up of some of the final designs I came up with. And then jump into the research. So for the research, I talk about how the system is currently organized. And then I did some interviews with my colleagues who are essentially going to be the users of the app. Made a journey map on how they go about preparing for a procedure, and then identified some pain points down here. Then I did some more research on how much time they spend doing patient care. And based on the interviews I did, I found some aspects of procedure preparation that took up unnecessary time. So based on everything I discovered in the research phase, I highlighted them in the problem areas. So I narrowed it down into 3 main problems, and you'll find that 3 is the magic number. So when you're doing pain points, areas of opportunity, try to find 3 main things that you can miss. So the three things I came up with were that nurses may not always know exactly what supplies they need for a procedure. Nurses often have trouble locating the required supplies, and there's no clear direction on what to do if an item cannot be found on the unit. So next we move into the planning. And based on these three problem areas that I've identified, I came up with 3 areas of opportunity that aim to address these problems. So the first one is to implement a procedure lookup tool where they can see what supplies they need and review the instructions to perform it. We want to create a bin identification system to make it easier for nurses to find supplies. And we want to streamline the search for missing items. So if they can't find something on the unit, they'll be directed to the nearest location that stocks it. With these areas of opportunity in mind, I developed the product structure. So it's going to have 3 main features: the supplies locator, a procedure lookup tool, and then another customized patient procedure tool. And I kind of talk about, how I go about creating the bin identification system, how it would work in locating supplies. And with this all set out, we have the high fidelity mockups at the bottom here. So for this one, I didn't use any animated prototypes. I just used a static image and then some text to give context to how everything works. Down here, I have a quick example of the user flow. So they'll click this button, come to this screen. And then again, the text down here, the captions kind of walk you through the process. And then just a few more examples of different features that my app has. And then on to the next section, which is metrics. So here I talked about some usability testing I did, the results I found, and how junior nurses were 74% faster using the prototype, and more senior nurses were 39% faster using the prototype. And at the end here, just the reflection. So what constraints I faced, future steps, and then a quick conclusion. And that brings me to the end. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Now everyone's good? All right.
Yeah, just a few things to add. With everything that Jason showed in his case study, it was all very intentional. For example, he didn't just make a user journey map for no reason. He didn't do any of the research for no reason. It was all informing his design decisions later on. And so basically, the research that he found and the pain points that he discovered each stage, he was able to come up with an opportunity statement to solve for directly those pain points. And then for each of the features he built on, they were related directly to the opportunity statements as well as the pain points.
Yeah, so it's important to tie in how your research informs the rest of your case study and how it informs your design decisions. Okay, so next I'm gonna quickly talk about some really great resources for getting inspiration on your portfolio designs. So one is bestfolios.com. And I'll show you what it looks like here. It's just a collection of really nice portfolios you can look through. You can click into them, see the entire page, and you can actually visit the portfolio website. So there's a variety of different ones here, from the really simple ones, more colorful. This one has a lot of illustrations. So yeah, when I started off making my portfolio, I spent a lot of time on here just seeing how other designers like to lay out their portfolios and just getting some inspiration. Another great one is cofolios.com. And that's here. And this one's cool because you can actually see the portfolios of people that work at a specific company. So if I said, say, portfolios here, you can see this person is an intern at Shopify. This person's intern at Facebook. So if you were applying to, let's say, Google here, you can open up, see all the Google interns, check out their portfolios, because you know that their portfolios were good enough to get them a job at this company. So it means that they did something right. So it's really good to get inspiration from these guys. So the next thing we'll have to do is to choose which platform you want to host your portfolio on. Each one of these has their pros and cons, and we'll take a look at the various options you have. Nowadays, there's a lot of popular no-code website builders that make life a lot easier for designers who don't code, like me. So they allow you to drag and drop elements onto the screen to build your site, and usually come with a bunch of templates you can use to get you started. So here are some of the more popular ones that people use. We've got Webflow, Weebly, Wix, and Squarespace for website builders. And then there's also Behance and Dribbble, which are creative content sharing sites. I'm going to start with Webflow because it's my personal favorite. And I actually use Webflow to build my personal portfolio, as well as our website Innovo from scratch. It's also the platform I use when building out websites for clients. So I can personally vouch for it. It's very powerful and you can make some pretty amazing stuff with it once you get the hang of it. It does have a bit of a learning curve though, and requires you to have at least a basic knowledge of CSS and standard website structures. To make your life easier though, Webflow has a nice collection of templates and example websites to get you started. And you can browse through them to see examples of what other people have made. And I'll show you what that looks like. So they have a showcase here and you can just kind of scroll through. There's some pretty nice projects. You can view the details. You can view the live site here. And then a really cool feature on Webflow is you can clone the project, which actually copies it to your account. And then when you go in, you can actually see how the designer laid out everything, how the interactions work, how the layers are organized. And then you can kind of just customize it to your own liking. Next is Wix. I haven't had too much experience with it, but it seems like it's one of the cheaper ones, starting at only $5 a month. They have quite a few templates to choose from. It creates a mobile version of your website automatically, which is nice. And it's pretty simple and intuitive to use. The cons, though, are that the templates can't be changed easily once you set one. And there's a lack of advanced editing features like custom HTML and CSS. Also, you can't export it, so you're kind of stuck using Wix. Squarespace is also a pretty popular one out there. It's pretty simple to use and get set up, and there's a lot of templates to choose from. I've seen quite a few people use this to host their portfolio. I tried it out myself, and I wasn't a huge fan, but that's probably personal preference. I felt like the features were a bit too limited, and you didn't have much flexibility to customize the templates to your liking. But you can definitely give it a shot and see if it works for you. There's also Weebly, but I don't know much about it and I've never used it before, but it seems pretty similar to Wix and Squarespace. So Behance and Dribbble, now these are more geared towards visual designers, and they provide a platform that allows people to showcase their portfolios of visual work such as graphic design, fashion, illustration, and photography. It's also a creative network that allows designers to connect with each other. However, we don't recommend this for your portfolio because you need to explain your rationale behind your designs, and they don't really allow for this, just for the visual work.
Cool.
And that's essentially, yeah. Go ahead, Charlotte.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions on the different platforms you guys can use or anything that Jason has presented?
If you're like a developer and you can develop websites from scratch, would you recommend going through that way or like still using one of those platforms that you recommended or you listed?
I can take this one. So I studied computer science and I was like, okay, let me just build my own website. Whatever, this should be easy, right? And it was okay. It was just really time consuming for me. And then just knowing how much I have to change later on, because your portfolio is such an iterative process and you have to like rework it. I don't know how many times I've redone my portfolio. It's just so much easier with these no code platforms. So I use Squarespace and then I was able to just move things around very easily. And after I migrated from like my GitHub website to Squarespace, my life became like a lot easier. But it's really up to you. That's a great question. Does anyone else have a question?
I was just curious about Webflow. I know that's probably a whole nother workshop, but are we able to kind of just look at the interface? I was just interested in what that might look like.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely walk you through that. Let me just pull it up here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen again.
Jason, what are you going to show?
I'm gonna show my portfolio, but I can also show a Novo if you want.
Show a novel. I think the bubbles like dropping from the sky.
Okay,
It's
sure.
So cool.
Sure. Yeah, so here is our design studio website. So here's what it looks like. And then when you press preview, you can kind of see the animations we put in. And I'll go through the different pages too. It's a bit laggy because I'm screen sharing, but it's a lot smoother if you actually visit the website. So here is the designer view, it's called. Essentially, if you go to the home page here, you can see that everything's in containers. So this is a container, and then the text is a container, and the button's a container, and then we can see all the different layers we have here. So if you want to go in and edit something, we can just click here and then change the text. You can change the colors. I'm gonna move this bar here. Over here, you have all the styles. So we really like using pop-ins for everything. You can make it bold. You can change the size, the color. And essentially with Webflow, everything is in containers. So if you go here, we can add different sections, containers, div blocks, columns. And that's just, if I wanted to add a new section here, I can just drag and drop it in. Let's put it above projects here. And then from here, let's say we want to add some text. I can just add heading text. I can center it. We can go ahead and drop some images in. So just drag an image here. There's my image. It's a little bit big. We can resize it, let's say 300. So you can see it's pretty simple to use. It's nice because you can see what it's going to look like on a live site without having to actually like run any code or do any backend designing.
And if you have a computer science background, it works very similarly to like your divs and your containers, your flex boxes.
So I'll show you how the flex boxes work. So I think these are in a flex box here. So we have the container, it's in a flex box. You can do horizontal. We can also flex them vertically. And then you have a lot of different alignment options. You can choose how the wrapping works. You can set the margins and the padding. And everything pretty much gets updated on the fly. So you can see exactly what it's going to look like.
I just have two questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
For like the bubble stuff, how does the animation work?
You're talking about these guys here, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So Webflow has a native interaction feature, which goes, I'll show you how this kind of works. And basically, these are all little div blocks with the circle inside. And I believe this is interaction we have. Lots of parallax. Remember which one I used. There's so many here. This one. So you can set the positioning of these guys here.
Gotcha.
So you move it around, and then you can say, you know, the initial state, they're all hidden. And then after a certain time, they move into their final position.
So those are all individuals, right? That you'd have to configure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. You can also do it at once, but we wanted everything to be offset to make it more natural looking.
Right.
So we kind of changed the timing for each of them.
Gotcha.
But it's cool because you can do a lot of various animations, like the fade in effect, like this thing here. It's just basically an opacity change, and it's delayed so that the text comes in one by one. And you know, did you have a second question?
Yeah, my second question was just about when using like Webflow or other platforms, how do you make your portfolio like responsive to other screen sizes as well?
Oh, perfect. I was just about to talk about that. But so Webflow has a feature up here. You can see the different screens. So this is desktop, and that's basically your base breakpoint. So most of your changes will be made here. But if you click onto a different one for here, you can see how it looks like in tablet mode. And then you have your landscape mobile and then portrait mobile.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And yeah, no problem. And yeah, so most of these you have
makes
to play
it like
around with.
it makes it like automatically responsive.
So it will require a bit of setup on your end. If you do use a template, most of the templates are set up pretty well. But there are a few things, like sometimes you have to make the text smaller on mobile, or the margins will have to be changed. So you do have to play around with it a bit. But then with the inclusion of flex boxes, it makes it a lot easier because you can see here that what we do is right now horizontal, but when you move to, let's say, mobile view, they become vertical. So what you can do is go into your mobile view and then change the flex box to actually, just find the container here. Yeah, you can change this from horizontal to vertical, and then it's going to line them all vertically. And the thing with these breakpoints is, since they're cascading, any changes you make to tablet will only apply to tablet and below. So it won't actually mess up your desktop version. So if I go here and make changes, and I go back here, the changes won't actually be applied. They'll only be applied to the smallest screen size. Does that kind of make sense? Or am I just confusing everyone here?
No, that
makes sense to me. It's
Okay.
really cool.
Awesome. Any other questions you had on Webflow?
I was also just wondering.
Oh,
go on. Sorry.
Oh no, you go first, Grace.
Oh, I was also just wondering about hosting. Is it just like a click of a button kind of thing to publish it?
Yep. So you go publish here, and then you just click publish.
Oh wow.
That's it.
Okay, that's great.
It's really easy. And hosting, I think, is about $15 a month, 12 USD. So around $15 a month, which it really isn't too bad. I think that's standard for most website hosting.
Mm.
So yeah, Webflow is my favorite. I would highly recommend it. You can make some really nice websites on it.
Cool, thanks.
Michelle and Shabam, what are you guys currently hosting your portfolios on?
Yeah, so I made the dire mistake of coding out my entire website. So I'm gonna change everything up after this. But yeah, it's on GitHub Pages. Yeah.
Cool.
Mine's the exact opposite. Mine's hosted on Adobe Portfolio. It has very little flexibility. So it was to just make it as fast as possible to start applying the stuff.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, definitely. If you're looking for a job right away, I recommend not going with Webflow because it's probably going to take you forever to set up and learn. Yeah. Should we start roasting portfolios?
I think that sounds like a plan.
Cool. All right, Shabam, Michelle, which one of you wants to go first?
I think mine will more likely be worse than Michelle's, so it'll be better to get mine out of the way.
Mine is 2 years old. I think they're equal.
Okay, I'm sure yours gonna be better, but also just mine is not exactly designer portfolio, so I didn't really talk a lot about the process of how I went through just different stages that Jason walked us through. So it's mainly just linking to my code, but I can just share it regardless. So I'll just refresh this page. Yeah, so this is just the opener, and just a few lines about me. I linked my resume there, and if you just click that, it just animates lower. And I basically just included 4 of my projects just because that's similar recommendation that Jason gave. But again, the thing I wanted to keep in mind with this particular website was I wanted to make it more dev friendly. So I just mainly linked to my code with few lines of description of what the project is about. This particular project was for my co-op, so it's actually available on the Play Store, so I linked that as well. This one was for the search projects, so I just linked this one there. A few lines of description. This one was a hackathon project, so I also linked that one. Here I basically just spoke about some of the stuff that I have experience with. And then finally, just some links to get in touch, socials, email just to send me anything. But yeah, it was a tough time to code this whole thing out by myself, really time consuming. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Charlotte and Jason, anybody who wants to share their thoughts on how I can iterate this.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Do you want to just link it in the Zoom call and then I can walk through it and I can share my screen?
Sounds good.
I remember when I was applying for my first job as a web dev, my portfolio definitely looked something like this. It was a lot different than a portfolio for a design position.
Right.
So
Yeah,
let
I sent it in the
me.
chat.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Cool. Okay. Hello. So do you want me to evaluate it as like a designer's portfolio or as a dev's portfolio?
So like I did want to include elements of design into this dev portfolio because I've seen some dev portfolios could be a little bit boring. So maybe you could talk about them both in a sense.
Okay, sure. So for your next role, do you want to apply to be a designer or a dev?
For dev.
For dev, okay, I'll evaluate it as a dev's portfolio then. So I think it looks really good, really colorful. I love it so far. View my resume. I love that it's like very prominent. And as I scroll down a bit more, it's great that you have a short description of the project and then you can view the code. So let me try viewing the code. Okay, so it links you directly to the GitHub. So will people, if they want to interact with this app, will they have to basically download it and then run it on their computers?
Yeah, you can basically just download this thing and just run it on Android Studio. It should run like.
Okay, cool. I'm assuming everyone who's looking through your portfolio and trying to hire you, they're not going to download any app and look through it, right? So I think it'd be a really good idea to just going back, include some flows. So you can have a view code and then maybe you can just have like view project and then you can include some images of a user flow. You can describe a few things. You can talk about the metrics like practical parent, flip a coin, breathe. So to help with the practical aspects. Okay, so maybe you can talk about flipping a coin and can share some like numbers, like I don't know what sort of numbers you can include there. But yeah, and moving on to the next one. Cool. It's on Google Play. Are people going to download it and interact with it? Probably not, right? So again, same thing, show some images of the flow. And I think it's also really great to
Right.
show what tools you're using right away on your website. So they know, instead of like going down here, having them read that, just show like, oh, did you use React? Like whatever you use to code this up. Same with the other ones. Because
Yeah,
yeah.
I did mention a little bit of some of the tools that I use, like for this particular example, this is Flutter, Google Firebase. So is that kind of the tools that you were hinting towards, or what exact tools do you mean?
Exactly. Yeah, this is good. And just anything you used here. Okay, I see that. Cool. Yeah, maybe something here as well. Is this a design project? The HSBC Smart
This
Radio?
is this is a design, and it's both. It's like this is a design project. Like the mobile app was a prototype, so we designed that. But there's also like a back-end machine learning model that we made. So that's a little bit of dev work as well. So I was kind of in both sides of the fence there. So I don't know exactly how to talk about it.
I think your role is also really important. So for example, if you were the designer or if you were the project lead, make sure you flex that right away. Say, I was the design lead and project lead. I led my team to do this. And then we won, what our stats were, something like that. And moving down.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool, and get in touch. And let's check out your resume.
Yeah.
All right. I love the colors. Software engineer and data analyst. So I'm assuming if you put this down, you will definitely not get a design job because nowhere did you say you're a designer, right? So this is,
yeah, I'm not looking
assuming
for a design job. I'm not looking for a design job.
Awesome. Yeah, so very geared towards like the dev position. Cool. I guess this is more going to like resume roasting. Let's do that real quick too. I would say it would be really great to
Sure. I
include...
really love your opinion.
Okay, I think it'd be really great to include some metrics. So I see what you did here. You led a team of 3 designers. That shows your leadership skills, which is great. Oh wow, you were nominated for an award. But maybe show like after creating this, you improve the workflow by 30% or increase the speed of something by some number. Just include like a lot of metrics, maybe in every bullet point. Yeah. Do you guys know what I mean by these metrics, like success metrics?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So let's take a look at Michelle's and see, since I'm assuming it's more designer.
Sorry, one more thing in this one. I just noticed that the Infusionsoft was not boated. So just make sure that's boated.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Oh no. All right. Michelle, do you want to link yours?
It is linked.
Oh, cool. It's linked. All right, let me open it. Okay. Michelle, projects, about. Cool. Okay, so I go through the portfolios that come in when people are applying to Duolingo, and I help like review all the applicants. So let me just like pretend you apply to Duolingo, and I'm gonna look at your portfolio and then base it on that. So first thoughts, it's very clean. I love how like all the projects are laid out. And Michelle, I'm assuming you're going to apply for a product design position. So I'm going to be looking at your product design projects, your UX, UI, and I'm not going to look at your branding and layout, graphic design, because that wouldn't be relevant to this position. And because Duolingo is a mobile base, mostly mobile base, I'm going to look at Rebuild, since this seems like the only mobile website. So I'll click on that. Okay, cool. Rebuild is a natural disaster relief network that builds resilient communities by supporting people in their recovery post-event. Okay, great. So I love that you gave some context as to what the project is, and you gave a brief overview of the solution. And I'm gonna scroll down. Key information. Okay, so it's good that you worked with a team. Oh, Amir, we did a hackathon project together a couple years ago. I did my first hackathon with him. It was a lot of fun. Moving down. Hey, you talked about your role. I was the only UX UI designer and copywriter on our team during the hackathon. That's great. So I know, like, moving forward, whatever screens I see, you're gonna probably have the ownership over these. Right, so results. Android application, we built one second place at NW Hacks. Woo, amazing. All right, context. So you extended this. All right, process, context. Okay. So I think Jason shared that. First, we want to see a very clearly defined problem statement. And this is what you have here. Communication infrastructure is often damaged post natural disasters, leaving people unable to share vital information. So my main tip for your problem statement is to dumb it down as much as you can. Make use smaller words, make it like very easy to understand. I'd say English is like, I'm very fluent in English, but for some reason I just can't register big words. So just make sure this is very simple and very easy to understand. Communication, okay. Can you think of a way to make this simpler? Just this sentence right here. Or does anyone want to give it a shot?
My dog had to go bark at something.
Okay, no worries.
Make this simpler. Oh, I haven't thought about this project in a long time. It would probably be something about like after natural disasters, like the tools needed for communication, I don't know, are often damaged, or something.
Okay, yeah.
About, yeah, or something about how people aren't able to communicate after natural disasters because
yeah. Exactly. I think that's like much better, so much easier to understand. So I would say people can't communicate after a natural disaster, right? Something very simple. And then you can talk about, oh, why? Because communication infrastructure is damaged, right? So very easy to understand. Okay, and moving down, I see that you have some wireframes and I see a lot of erased bits. So I like seeing wireframes because it shows you how you went from the beginning of the process to the end. However, this does not tell me anything about your project, right? So I would love to see some context as to, we all know that we start sketching at the beginning, but it's really great to show like why you're sketching, which flows are really important to the app, and that's why you chose to sketch this part. So moving down, it says the splash and then the map and the ad. So you said that low-fi wireframes were a must, so I could share my ideas with the rest of the team. Quickly done in Figma. Okay, so because this is a hackathon project, I'm assuming you had to work very fast, but it's a really good idea to just go back to your project after your hackathon and just make it so that it's like great, and every single step you do, there's like intent behind it, and you're not just sketching because you think it's like just something you do, like the steps that you do, right? And then the result of it is, as a team, we built this. Okay, the buttons. So yeah, like Jason's portfolio earlier, he did a really great job of showing each of the features and just showing how the features tie into the initial problem with captions for every single one. And right here, like, it's really hard for me to understand, okay, I see the rebuild. I see this a second in the screen that comes on, but I don't really understand like the flow and what these features mean. And Yeah, so I'd say I've done many projects at hackathons, and I try to throw them on my portfolio, but I always go back and iterate on them so that they seem like not just a hackathon project, but like a legit project. Yeah, and then going back, I'm gonna go back to the previous. All right, so I see that Michelle has some experience with mobile app design, and then I'm gonna maybe look at her web design projects and going down. Okay, so what is the main problem? Problem statement, I don't see it. So I guess I'll read the context. The chapter for my team, my collaborator, to identify areas of concern within the organization, develop a solution to alleviate them. So a better statement here would be like the main problem that you identified, and just put it up and just say, oh, the main problem is, Michelle, what is the problem here? Do you remember?
If you go down to like the 1, 2, 3, those are kind of the three
1, 2, 3.
like, key insights that were used to like guide the final solution.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I would put this even ahead of process, because I'm still searching for the problem, and then oh, process, she already started, but she didn't tell me what the problem is, right? And going down a bit more, process, key insights, learn, and then the solution. Member journey, improve member journey. Okay, so I see you made a bunch of slides. Okay, cool. So all these slides, I'm guessing they're the features, and they talk about how you solve for those problems, right? And yeah, I think this does a really great job of presenting your solution. It would just be really nice to see like how you got these problems to begin with. And currently I'm not seeing it in your process area. Jason, did you have anything to add to this one?
No, I think it looks really good. I did notice that you put a link to the prototype in Figma down there. And I think, yeah, just as a note that most recruiters, when they're looking at your portfolio, they won't actually click on that. They'll just go down and look at the pictures and the text you have.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, they link their prototypes. I have never clicked on one of them. I just expect them to lay out everything I need to see instead of making me dig through like different pages for them.
You really want to make it as
All
easy
right.
and like kind of feed all the information to the person. So it takes zero effort on their end.
Cool. But otherwise, I love the clean look. And depending on the position you're applying to, it's okay to include all these other like branding, layout, and graphic design. But if you're applying for a product design position, make sure you have like really strong case studies for the ones labeled UX UI. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for sharing your portfolio.
No problem.
Does anyone else have one they want to share? Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
I just had a question about, I know at the beginning of the presentation, one of the questions that we want to consider was like building our personal brand and identity. So I was wondering if you guys had a process for that or any tips on forming that.
Jason, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So for mine, I really just wanted to go for something clean. I think one big aspect of that is just because starting off, it's a bit easier to build off your portfolio with a clean look than something super crazy full of animations. Of course, like once you get to a place where you're really comfortable with Webflow and you want to spice it up a little bit, I think that's definitely something you can look into. But for like a designer who's just starting out, I think the safest way to go is to look for something clean. Just focus on the text and images, and you really just want to showcase your work and not so much your portfolio. Your portfolio is just a platform to showcase what you can create.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, thanks.
I had one.
Let me share.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Just to finish that question off, let me share my screen. And I think this portfolio has a really great example of like amazing personal branding. So Jeremy Stokes, he's actually one of my coworkers right now at Duolingo. And I found his portfolio through the Google interns because he used to work there. And like just the way he laid it out, like the colors and everything are all very nice. When he introduced himself, hey, I'm Jeremy, a creative with a knack of connecting people by creating fascinating things that live in the digital world, the physical world, or somewhere in between. So that's what he says about himself, digital world and physical world. So I'm gonna expect to see like projects where he does like physical things and maybe some digital things. And yeah, and I guess like just through his projects, he does a lot of different types of projects. So passion project is clickable. Okay, no, he has a password on that. Let me go back. How do we go back? Okay, this is a okay. So what he did at Google, he worked on a Hinge project. I see like the general theme is that when people have a job, they kind of don't have a case study anymore for their portfolios. They kind of just leave that off. So I don't think he has that many case studies right now. Oh, okay, here's the Hinge one.
I think the Hinge one has a good case study.
The Hinge one does? Did you read through it?
I did, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I love how he like gave background information, and like his styling and his designs are just so like neat and different than the usual cookie cutter white background and then some text, right? So his problem is 30 million matches are made on Tinder every day, and then that's just an estimate. So what is the problem here? With so many people making matches, why are people still longing for connection? Oh my gosh, I totally relate to this. So make sure you have a problem statement that people understand and can relate to, right? An opportunity statement. So what if there's a dating app that can live past the initial match? Oh my gosh, like tell me more. How can I keep making these connections longer lasting, right? And moving down, like the way he presented solutions are also really like great.
Insane.
He included videos, features, and how it works. So the way he laid it out, part one, guided reflection with a little description on how this part works. Another one, different methods, validation feedback. Feature number two is the dating log. Right, and just include like neat little illustrations throughout. I think this really says a lot about his personal brand. Yeah. And like Jeremy at the very beginning, like everything was very, very clean, right? He went directly into the solution after defining the problem. And I see that it's only when you scroll really far down that you talk about like the journey mapping, all like the super lo-fi stuff. Because at the end of the day, you want to apply to a company, and when they're evaluating your portfolio, they want to see you have like very beautiful mocks, like very clean, right? And then if I want to learn more about the process, I can scroll down more and see like exactly what your design thinking was. Yeah, I hope that helps answer the question, Grace.
Yeah, for sure. That's super cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Premier, what was your question?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna mention like with passion projects, because we do like as just projects that we're not we're doing to like try to learn something or like to get ourselves introduced in something, and within those projects we might not have too many metrics. So how could we include like metrics without having like a solid like, oh, this is like the result of what we created?
Jason, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I think one good thing would be to talk about if you don't have any metrics, how would you go and get those metrics? So what are some possible things you could do? Um, how would you design a way to test out your app? Would it be through doing like, case control studies? Would it be going out and validating them with users? Seeing how long it takes them to navigate the flow? And just talk about, very like potential ways that you can collect metrics from people.
Yeah, exactly. And just to add to that, actually, no, I think Jason answered it pretty well. Yeah, that's a really great question because I know a lot of designers when they're starting out, it's all personal projects. I was in that same boat too. And it's just like great to see you like be able to think ahead. If you have time to test it out, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Gotcha. Thank you.
I'm curious, like what makes you guys want to be designers? Like what interests you about design that you want to pursue a job in design rather than dev? I guess this is a question more directed to the people with the dev backgrounds.
Okay. So for me personally, like I think that like there's a saying kind of stuck with me. So it's basically by Bill Gates. He said that it doesn't matter if your product is trash if it looks good. That's like 90% of the work. So that's the best way to cover for a trash product. So that really shows how important it is to make sure your product is usable. If if it gives all of the good feelings to someone when they try to interact with it, it makes their life easier. You want to remove as much friction as possible, and I think all these things are possible only with keeping the fundamental principles of design in mind in every step. So I think for those reasons, I really, wanted to learn more about it, apply it more.
That's awesome. So Shubham, you want to keep doing dev stuff, but then you want to also be a great designer so you could, I guess, like just
Yes.
create like great products, right? Okay, cool. And then
Absolutely.
for the other ones with the CS backgrounds, do you guys want to kind of do the same thing or actually just become like a full designer?
I think I'm similar to Shubham. Like, I do want to focus on development, and like from my co-op experiences and from the projects that I've done, I realized that like even with the difference between like a good developer and maybe like a great one is like the better developers they have a lot of design principles behind their head even when they're coding, like about responsive, like websites or applications, about usability, about accessibility. All those elements I feel are like design principles that you think about. And so that's what I have to reflect on even when I'm developing or coding. Although that is my interest, like there's a lot of design principles that I still have yet to learn to make myself become a better developer. And that's why I had an interest in design. Designing I find very difficult just because there you have to experiment so much. And there's like I feel like there's a lot of repetition as well within design because you're changing small things, and it is like time consuming. I like on personally I find that very difficult, but I think that thinking about how to make the product better, thinking about your target audience, thinking about accessibility needs, all of that kind of stuff, that's critical and really valuable to keep keep in your mind. And so that's what I kind of want to learn. Why I want to learn design elements and principles, just so I can have that in the back of my mind even when I'm developing, because I think that still makes a critical impact.
Also, one more thing that I really enjoyed in my last co-op was when I was helping to design one of the apps that we were building. We actually did a lot of kind of um, research beforehand. So we were talking to potential users for the app, and we were asking them questions about their day-to-day, and asking them what problems they have. we were talking through, we were not trying to make the app right here. We're just having conversation to learn about their lifestyle and see what exactly makes them tick, and what is their daily struggles, pain points. And I think that was really interesting to me. That we had no conversation about how to make this app better. It was just about, tell me about yourself, your life. And that really stood out to me. And having that mm, as a step in the development journey was really cool, and it really set the app apart from something else the company made in the past. So that UX research was really interesting, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
for
to
sure. I
add
totally
on to
resonate with that. Yeah, go ahead.
no, no worries. Sorry to cut you off. I just think like what Shubham just said really like resonated with me in terms of like why I'm also interested in design is the research part as well, like really being able to understand or like look into the user and like what they experience, the pain points, and yeah, I think that kind of interaction, something or those kind of processes are things that you don't really do in like on the dev side or like in computer science courses. So I think just like being able to really delve deep into a problem and do that research is really interesting to me. And then based on that, being able to come up with some sort of design.
I think to like summarize the points, I think we just don't want to be code monkeys, like given a design and then we just implement it, but really think about like how it's going to impact what. And I think that like makes us better individuals or more capable when we progress through our career.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome that you guys want to like be more involved in the process earlier on and just having a say in these design decisions. I think that's gonna just help, like as you're implementing things, you're like, okay, I know why I'm building it out. I'm just not like listening to someone tell me what to do. So that's really awesome.
Charlotte, what about yourself? What
yeah.
about yourself? Could you tell us why you got into design and what design means to you? I'm sure we'd be very interested to hear about that.
Sure. Why I got into design? It was because I hated computer science, and then I just really needed to like look for something else to do. So that's why I went to hackathon, and I was like, hey, I don't want to code. I'll just design. And I was like, hey, this is so much better. Like, why am I coding? And just being able to, like you guys said, understand the problem early on, and just talking to users. Like, I find that so much fun. And like, not gonna lie, like coding is freaking hard for me, and I hate like not being able to see anything that I'm like typing out. And with design, everything is so visual, right? And it's just a lot easier for me to understand. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I hope that helps. So I know that there's one more portfolio that Michelle linked. I'm totally down to quickly go through this. So let me share my screen.
She had to go, but she liked your feedback on my portfolio, so she asked me to send hers.
Okay, is your friend like beside you right now, or?
No, she had to go because she has like a class meeting.
Okay, gotcha. So
provide or talk about anything.
Sure. So hello, my name is Cora. I'm a Vancouver base. Okay, cool. You have your description, which is good, but then chances are if you're applying for a design job, you're going to be a designer, right? So I'd say it's better here to say something a little bit more unique. Like, for example, if Jason has a healthcare background, he would say, oh, I'm a designer with a healthcare background. And then I think that's just a little bit better. And moving down, so if I'm going to go through this and she's applying for a job, I would probably just look at her first project first. So VIFF loop. All right, so a type of project, user experience. Okay, so a mobile curated film discovery and scheduling companion, proposal, targeting festival, audience onboarding. Oh my God, that's so hard to understand. Okay, film discovery and scheduled companion, proposal. Yeah, I still don't understand it after reading it the second time, so maybe make that a lot simpler. And going down, feature design interactions. So jumping straight into the solutions, which I like because I like seeing how it looks right away before reading about the process. okay, my role. All right, and then she's gonna jump into all the research. So ethnography study. There's a lot of text here, and then I would probably not read any of this text and then jump straight into here, let me zoom this in, straight into the graphs. And then, have you attended screening outside of festival dates? And I see some of the results. And it's just really difficult to understand why she did the survey and why she did this ethnography study. Like, I want to see like the pain point that she's trying to solve for and what were the results that she got from this. Okay, design focus 1. So increasing engagement to expand the experience past the film. So this is already sounding like a solution to me, but I still didn't understand the problem before that. So make sure oh, okay, maybe it's right here. Continuing the spread of exposure. So let's assume that these are the problems that she came up with upon doing her research. I would make this a lot bigger. And then I would tie this opportunity statement directly to the problem. And moving down, Alex, the curious socializer. So this is a user persona. This is good because I like to see who the main audience is. Design focus 2, cultivate a strong voice culture around VIFF. Again, there's a lot of text, and as I'm scanning through a portfolio, I'm probably not going to read through any of the body text. I usually just skim through the headers because I have to evaluate so many portfolios. So make sure like all your headers tell a really great story and I'm able to follow it from the beginning to the end. Design focus 3, form enduring relationships through local and personal film experiences. The film is experience, the issue. So this portfolio, it's very clean. And then I like the way that she is I guess just separating the points. However, something that she can do better might be just having everything a lot more concise. And it is not clear to me that, okay, let me just scroll through a little bit more. All right, it seems like there's a lot of different components to this, and I'm not too sure exactly what they mean. So the film is the experience. Is this like part of the solution or is this still talking about the problem? And then moving down, I see the issue again. So is this still talking about the problem? I thought the problem was just up there and we already went through it. So I guess the sections could be better laid out and a lot more concise. Let me just show you one of Jason's other projects. Let's go through Shift Buddy real quick. So let's roast Jason's Shift Buddy. There was a question in the chat. I'm gonna read it real quick. Oh, okay, bye Josh. Thanks for coming. All right, so Jason's Shift Buddy. I love how he was so like quick to tell me what the problem is. There's currently no easy way for nurses to find colleagues to cover their shifts. Okay, understand, very easy to make sense of. Okay, I see the current process, step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay, so this makes sense to me. He's telling me some background information. I'm going down. Oh, another question. How might we make it easier for nurses to swap shifts with their colleagues? And I get, okay, so this is what Jason's trying to get at. He's trying to find a solution to make it easier for shift trading. So moving down, Shift Buddy. And then he has, oh, nice. I see that his designs are very beautiful and I'm going to move on because this has captured my attention. I'm going to read more into how he came up with this solution, right? So the solution, find colleagues to trade with, keep track of all your shifts, manage and see the status. Okay, like I understand what he's trying to get at. Let me see how he came up with each of these features. So moving down, he did research, competitive analysis. Okay, so he went through a whole competitive analysis to find the top features of each app, and that's going to inform like probably what features he wants to include in his app, right? And then he spoke with colleagues and then he found some pain points. Okay, so his colleagues said these are what they don't like. So all these, like the pros from these apps and then the cons from what his colleagues have said, that's probably going to inform what his features are going to be. All right, project objective, interviews. Okay, yeah, interviews are really important because it shows that you want to talk to your users and actually get their input very early on. So I like how he included interviews, planning. Okay, so he has planned out his project at the very beginning with all the different tabs. I'm assuming this is what he has and all the different features for the tabs. Okay, and the lo-fi mockups, the wireframes. Cool. I'd say one thing that he could do for the wireframes part is to just show like what these are, because it's a little bit hard for me to understand what this means. You add, okay, so you pull up a calendar, but what is this actually doing? So that maybe that's something he can add. Early explorations. Okay, I see that he has included a few options as to some of the design decisions he made and why he chose option 3 as his favorite one. And I'm guessing this has the most pros and the least cons compared to the other two. So it's nice that he has like explored different directions. And moving down a bit more, there's a lot of text, so I'm not going to read through that. So one idea is to maybe make this a little bit more concise, but I like that he included a lot of visuals, so I don't really need to read this to understand what's going on. And moving down a bit more, compact list. Okay, showing a few more examples, which is really great. Oh, okay, a little design system that he created. This is awesome. And then he jumps straight into each of the features and what the features mean. Okay, so one thing that maybe he can do is remind me what the problems are again. So work schedule calendar, maybe the problem here is that with the other apps, there's no way to easily view your schedule. This find colleagues to trade with. So maybe the problem here is it's just really hard to find people to trade with. You don't know who's working on which dates. So this is the solution that would solve for that problem. View shift offers, track status of trades, workplace groups. Okay, so these are all really great that he's showing each of the features broken down very clean and showing a description for each. And moving down, and a reflection. So I like that he included what he's going to do next, as well as a conclusion. Maybe he can add in some challenges, because chances are like working through a project, it's not going to be a linear process. It's not going to be like a pretty road throughout the whole thing. There's probably some hiccups along the way. So it's nice to add in the challenges you faced and how you overcame them. Great. Yeah, I hope that helps, like comparing the two case studies and see like what are the pros and cons of each. Do you guys have any questions on that one?
I noticed how
Cool.
everyone's process is so different. So every portfolio you've showed us, everyone has a different process to go about it. So I think that's quite interesting. Everyone thinking different routes. It's not like one set thing. I mean, apart from the problem statement, everything else has just been do your own thing. So it's been quite interesting. Good to see.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's so hard just knowing the structure that you gotta take. Like when you're making your portfolio, oh my gosh, like I like move literally everything around so many times. So it's just really difficult. But I think as you do it more, you'll start to understand like what is the best way to storytell, and that's how you can structure your portfolios. Yeah. I hope that's helpful. I think that's time. So if you guys don't have any questions, not sure what should we do now, Grace?
Yeah, I think we'll just wrap it up. Yeah, we're just gonna give a huge virtual round of applause. Thank you both so much for coming out today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday to share all of your knowledge and all these amazing examples with us. And I'm sure we all learned a lot. And yeah, we're looking forward to improving our portfolios or making our first one based on all of the awesome ones we've seen today. So yeah, thank you again. And I think we'll just wrap it up for today. So enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Okay,
thanks, Jason.
awesome.
Thanks,
for
Charlotte, for
inviting
joining
us.
us.
Thank you so
awesome.
much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hope you learned something new.
For sure. We definitely did. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye,
take
everyone.
care.
See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.